avoid that sort of situation. We're calling it Deception Prevention Week, and today we're speaking to District Attorney Jaime Esparza on the topic of deceptive trade practices, and welcome to our show.
Well, thanks for having me.
We've talked this week advising people on how not to be scammed and how to look out, how to make sure workers are credentialed and that sort of thing. When the district attorney gets involved, there's a crime or a possible crime. When it reaches your office, there's a big problem, and probably more than you're able to handle.
Well, we do. The county attorney gets a lot of calls, but when it escalates past that, past a misdemeanor, then we get calls. And usually we're going to get a call either because of the amount that was lost or the repeated conduct. You know, it's somebody who's scammed, or at least they believe scammed, 3 or 4 people, maybe more. And so we have to look at those cases.
So this isn't small claims court anymore. When it gets to you, people have lost $5,000, $10,000, something like that.
That's right. The most difficult part is how do you make the distinction between whether it's a civil problem or really was a crime committed. Most people have a contract, and they have whoever came in to do the work, usually at the house. They have a contract, then something happens and the contract is broken, or at least the complainant, the homeowner, believes that, and then they come to us and ask us, is that a crime? And I have to tell you, almost every time, it's not going to be a crime, it's going to be a breach of contract, and you got to go to small claims court. But it can be, and usually the way we tell is that person they're dealing with has a history. So we go back and check to see if there's been repeated conduct.
And is it easier to prosecute that sort of person, has a track record of ripping people off?
Well, that's true, and the really big problem is we have to prove that they had the intent to take their money, steal their money from the onset. And it's really hard to prove that intent, and the only way the law permits us to prove that intent is by repeated conduct. So we know that if you took that person's money and the 3 people before that, then we know you might have had the intent to steal.
That leaves a lot of people disappointed, doesn't it? They come to you and they think it's a slam dunk.
Right.
I paid them $6 grand to do my landscaping, and they took my money and I never saw them again.
Sometimes when it's that simple, that's an easier case. But what usually happens is I paid my $6,000. They took off the grass. They said they were coming back. I paid them the $6,000 because they said they needed for materials, and they didn't come back.
Yeah.
So now the question is, did they not come back because they intended to steal it, which most people think, but there could be other reasons. They went into bankruptcy, they had employee problems, there were resource problems. It can be anything, and those cases have to go to JP court.
Let me change subjects real quickly as long as you're here. You saw this story on the young man from El Paso High School charged with child pornography on his computer. He'll have his day in court. We can't speculate on what's happened to him. The courts will decide that. But it goes to show, doesn't it, you can't tell a book by its cover, ever.
Right. You cannot tell a book by its cover. We never know who's actually doing that kind of conduct, and certainly you can never visually say somebody, that's the person that I think would commit that type of crime. What really is interesting here is because people have so much access to computers now, you can do anything on the Internet. Anybody can do the kind of conduct that we're worried about involving child pornography.
Too much freedom in many cases.
Sometimes.
Mr. Esparza, thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you.
All right. And stay with us. News Channel 9's online media producer, Bianca Cervantes, shows us what's trending on the web today. And if that's trending on the web, people have too much time on their hands.